for joining me on this podcast. I'm so excited. You're my first official interview.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. I like being at the get-go.
So before we get started, tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Sure. So my name is Rachel Shank, and I have a business called RS Creative and Design. And I'm a creative consultant and graphic designer. And while I focus mainly on branding and retail package design, most of my clients really want a creative partner kind of all the way through. Most of my clients are solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, small business startups. They're looking for someone to say, I don't know where to start with branding. What do I do? So then I basically go in with them. I help them kind of position themselves in their marketplace, in their industry. We figure out how they should be positioned, what their strategy is, what their competitors look like. And I help create I create their logo and all of the branding assets, but it goes along a little further than that, where I take it just from the logo and the brand guidelines and all that kind of stuff. I make them look consistent and branded online. So on social medias, on websites, and then I take it all the way through pretty much anything else their brand would touch or their service would touch. So print marketing materials, retail packaging if they're doing actual physical products on the shelf, trade show graphics, videos. I mean, you name it, pretty much I've done it with my clients. And usually that's the path that I go through, because they want one touch creative, which is good for me because I get to know who they are. I get to understand their business a lot better. And therefore branding is so much more seamless as we move from just a logo to all the way through all of their marketing pieces.
Yeah. So when I first met you, the plan was create me a logo. And that was it. And it's been so much more than that. I mean, Rachel does everything for me as far as branding goes, and I can't let go of her now. It's so awesome. And it's so, I don't know if any of you are entrepreneurs out there, it's such an essential part of a business, and it's so important. And yeah.
And I love it when clients like you, they come to me and they think it is so simple, and on the face of all of it, it is, but they don't quite understand how much their brand will end up touching. They don't understand how far it will reach. And if you're not consistent and you don't look the same, you're going to confuse your audience.
Yeah.
And then your brand and all of that effort that you made in the initial point is just all for naught. So that's why I love working with people like you, because it's like, my job is to help educate you to understand how important it is and where it will go and how much your brand will touch. And then we can work together, in a partnership and a collaboration to kind of make that all happen, which is the part I love. I don't like just dropping a logo and dropping some brand standards and walking away. It's just not as satisfying. I like to stay with people.
So you guys might be wondering why, how this relates to, online dating profiles. And essentially your online dating profile is your brand. It's how you present yourself. So while, directly, graphic design and brand design isn't, directly related to online dating, it is kind of, under the umbrella of an entrepreneurship thing, but the concepts correlate directly, I think, because the way you present yourself on your online dating profile is what people are going to see. They're going to make assumptions about you and judgments, and they're going to capture feeling from your profile. And that's why we decided to do this. So you can look at your online dating profile from a different perspective and maybe get like an aha, and maybe put a little more effort into how you button it up when you decide to go live, and look for love, which is, something that people value very highly. Like one of the top 5 things people want out of life. So, if you're single and dating, you gotta button that up and make everything look good. So, all right, so let's dive into the first question, which is, what is a brand?
Yes. So it's funny too, because I think a lot of people we're so much more savvy as a culture to understand what branding is, but there's still pockets of people who just don't have any exposure to it. So basically a brand is it's not just your logo. It's not just your colors. in a corporate setting, in a company and corporate and product setting. It is everything that your brand says, does, looks like. So it's how you position yourself on social media. It's the types of things you post. It's the types of things you share. It's the types of things that you offer, all of those. And it's not just the visuals or the verbiage. It is also what do you want customers and clients to feel about your company? Do you want them to buy? Do you want them to share? Do you want them to donate? It's all of those things, and all of the branding part then tells them how to react to your brand. So branding is definitely more than just a logo, and it crosses everything. It would cross everything your logo touches, but it also crosses everything that you say about it or that you do about your company, is essentially what branding as an umbrella is.
And then how does that, how do you flow that into a personal brand, which is really that's sort of more or less the heart of what we are talking about here, because your online dating profile is your personal brand. And if you want to expand that even more, you guys, your Facebook page is your personal brand. Your LinkedIn profile is definitely your personal brand. So talk more about personal branding.
Yeah. So as it relates, it is funny because you're right. It does correlate extremely closely, really, to what I would do for a company. For a personal brand, you need to the first thing that is super important is to understand what you stand for, what your values, your morals, what you think is most important in your life. That's basically exactly like what I would do for a company. Is I would say, okay, what does your company stand for? Are you super environmental? Are you, fun? And are you Disney-like? Are you somebody who just wants to sell this little widget that you just think is the most amazing thing ever? I mean, you have to, on a personal level, you have to understand where you're willing to say, no, I'm not going to cross that line, or, this is what is most important to me, or this is something that I can adapt on. If you have those values set in yourself and what you're willing to negotiate and what you're not willing to negotiate, that is the core part of a personal brand, is to understand those aspects.
Yeah. And that's one of the things I push so much with dating profiles. People like to talk a lot about the kinds of things that they like to do hobby wise, which is great because you should want to share, activities with somebody, you should both want to enjoy going hiking or skydiving or whatever crazy things, or even just sitting home watching movies. But you need to really talk about your values, because that's where values are where people make like real personal connections.
Yeah.
And so that, and that's one of the biggest mistakes I think people make in their online dating profiles. They don't talk about the things that they value. And
I agree.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say,
they write more towards the masses also, instead of being more genuine. And then one of the things people complain about all the time is wasting their time with people, going out with people. Well, maybe if like you were a little more like deeper in your profile and how you presented yourself, you wouldn't go out on so many bad dates.
Yeah, I think that's so true. I am blessed of having a relationship that I've been married for, I don't even know how many years. So, my husband would, but I don't. All of his family right now is like, yeah, okay. No, but the thing
you've been married long enough that you've lost track. That's good.
Yes, exactly right. And I think the biggest thing that people ask me, like, because we met in high school, and the biggest thing that people ask me, like, how did you guys make it all through all of those changes and all that? And I think it is exactly that. We lined up in our life path, luckily or not, maybe it was haphazard. I don't know. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear that. My children are stomping upstairs. But we lined up in our paths of life and what we felt was most important very early on in our relationship. And I think that is why it wasn't, we both like to watch movies and we both like to go to football games. And, it wasn't that. It was the values and the stuff that our core beliefs, and what we really said, we're not going to break this part of our soul in our life.
Yeah.
It's very true. It's just as important as the company brand. On the personal level, you've got to have those things that you say are the most important.
Right. And think about companies, you guys, that you know, think about like Apple, for example. Like, what do you see when you look at their brand? I don't, have you seen that building that the new building that they're in? It's
No.
like, it looks like a spaceship. It's like
Oh,
circular,
nice.
you know, but that is a that building
Mhm.
and is a representation of their brand, and it's clean cut, and it's smooth, and you think high class and you look at that kind of thing.
Right.
So that's, you know, same thing with you, who you are as a person. Are you you know, when I see dating profiles, yeah, in my opinion, the worst mistake people make in their profiles is looking like they don't care
Yeah.
about dating and about finding somebody, because it's poorly written and it's sloppy looking. So if you're not going to put the effort into writing your dating profile well, then I'm not going to think that you're going to put effort into dating, and then ultimately you're not going to put any effort into me.
Right.
So
It comes across,
yeah.
right?
And then, so, you know, people, you know, what you write in your profile is not just the words, but the in between the lines stuff,
Mhm.
which is, you know, what we're talking about with the personal brand and the values and what you want people to feel
Right.
when they're looking at you.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and I think along with values, again, for the next thing that I would do for a company is talking about how they say it. You know, once they actually have those uncompromising truths, then it's how they say it. So it's brand voice. And again, in personal branding, it is how you write and how you speak through emails to potential partners and dates and things like that. Brand voice is, you know, we kind of talked a little bit about prior to recording, is that it really matters down to these 3 points, and brand values was one of them. Brand voice is the second, and then the brand visuals is the third. And for brand voice, I think what's interesting, and I'm sure your audience can relate to this too, is when Gillette just came out just a couple weeks ago, they launched kind of a new campaign. You know, it used to be, you know, what was it? What was their original? The best a man can get, right? So
Yeah.
that was their, yeah, I know. Like I've heard it for so many years now. They've had that, you know, that line for decades, right? And now, you know, they're really kind of going into changing that brand voice into like, okay, a best, you know, the best a man can get, but what's the best a man can be? So when we talk about voice and personal branding, you know, it's interesting because for a company that large that has had that statement and that tagline basically for decades, they switched it up based on what was going on in the Me Too movement. I mean, it was kind of there, and this, if your audience searches any of this, it's controversial because there's a lot of men coming out saying, "Now, wait a minute, you know, like, you know, I'm still a good man, you know, that kind of thing." But voice can change over time and as your life changes. So as your clients and people who are online dating, as their life changes, their brand voice, their personal voice can also change. So it's not like, you know, keep in mind that all of the stuff that we're talking about today, it's personal. So it's going to adapt as your lifestyle adapts and as your life situation adapts. But brand voice is kind of another really key issue to understand, making sure that what you're putting out there is a honest reflection of who you are, so that people aren't railroaded when they meet you and they're like, well, wait a minute, you know,
Right.
that wasn't at all what was in your profile, you know? And that's where people like you come in to play, and to be like, you, with your questionnaire, what you figure out about people and how extensive you go into getting to know them, so that then you can write an honest, accurate profile for them. And then hopefully then that means that they get better matched people that they can, you know, connect with.
Right. And then that's the quality over quantity.
Right.
You know, it may take you a couple weeks to go out on one date, but then that date's going to end up being better. And whether or not you end up with that person or not, is you still connected, you know, on the right points.
Right.
So
right. Exactly.
You want that to look good.
Right. I mean, and the thing is that for personal brands, you'll find more out about, or you'll see the voice, I think, before you'll see the visual, of course, obviously with the picture, but the voice is just as important, because that's pretty much the next thing that you see. And then the values are then reflected in that voice. So again, having a well-written profile is crucial when you're putting yourself out there, because it's reflecting everything about you. It's telling people what your values are, and then also telling them a little bit about them personally.
Yep. Yeah. It's not just what's written. It's like I said a minute ago, like it's not just what's written, but the in between the lines stuff.
Yes. Right.
People can pick up on that, and people are judgy. That's the thing. People will judge you. It's natural. As much as we hate it, we don't want to be judged, and all the complaints that you can put around that. Oh, there's such a whatever.
Right.
But do it too. Everybody does it. We're all very judgy, and that's why, like with branding, like you want that judgment to be as closely to as close to what you want that judgment to be.
Yes.
Is that right? You know what I mean?
Yeah. You don't want to falsify or mislead in any way.
Right.
And sometimes when I can't imagine when you're writing your own profile and trying to figure out what to say. That's hard, because here's the thing. Again, here's how it relates to business. I can sit there and go through, everything about my own personal branding, but it is so much harder to do my own personal branding than it is my clients, right? So I think it's the same thing with personal. It's so hard to write your own profile and do it effectively, to really hone in on the things that you're good at, than it is to just have someone else ask you those questions and then figure it out, because it's just different. It's always harder to do it for yourself.
Well, yeah, because plus like everybody who's going to end up, reading these profiles or looking at the logos that, you're creating for yourself are not you. Right. So it's good to have like that external perspective, so that you have more of an objective, thought behind it. So,
right.
you can how am I trying to say this? You can eliminate, a lot of things that other people might end up thinking, because you don't see it the same way other people see it. You're too close to it. Yeah,
exactly. You're too close to it. Exactly.
The visuals, because that's such a huge part of your dating profile.
Yes.
Dating profile. Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's obviously just as critical, in a branding sense, in a company branding sense, as it is in personal. Just like in what I do for my clients, for their companies and their products and stuff, every visual, because we're all visual, we love videos, we watch that kind of stuff. It's all about how we visually represent the company and the products and the services that they have. It's the same thing for how you present yourself, in a personal way. Just like today, like I'm not about to go in my, and do something like this in my jammies and
right.
completely, looking
like all sloppy and messed up. Right.
Yeah, right. I wouldn't do that, because I'm representing my company. Mm-hmm. And so just like on a personal level, you wouldn't want to put out some really weird or tacky or inappropriate picture.
Right. Yeah.
For a personal brand either. You want to make sure that it's, again, representing you accurately, and effectively. Everybody says it, right? The first impression is the one that everybody remembers. Sometimes it's your only chance to make the impression that you want to make. So that visual is super important. And just like I wouldn't do any kind of like really pixelated, fuzzy image for any of my clients, it's the same thing for personal branding. Don't put a fuzzy picture that's, from 1980, or something that's super blurry. They can't see you.
Yep.
People are visual. They want to know who they're talking to. They want to know who they're connecting with. And so that has to be as honest as it possibly can.
And think about like, especially with like apps like Bumble and Tinder, Hinge, how you look at that first picture that comes up and you swipe, you either swipe left right away because you're like, no way. Or if you're like, maybe, and then you can do a little scrolling to do the reading and see what else you can learn about them. But if that picture, people take like 2 seconds.
Yep, that's it.
15 seconds is a stretch. I mean, we're like 2 to 5 here. Like people make that decision right away.
and it's just like anything else. Like people who are, online and looking at those types of photos, they're shoppers and they're buyers. And just think about, for your audience, just think about when you shop for something, when you're on, DSW's website and you're shopping for shoes, or, you're somewhere shopping for, some weights or something, for some free weights or something. You're looking at those pictures and you're diving in, and you see those little 3 dots, and you're swiping across to really see every side of that product or that service that you're thinking about putting money into. And just think, that's exactly how it is in personal branding. People are looking deeply at who you are, how you write, what you do, what you're involved in, because they don't want to waste their time, just like they don't want to waste their money. Yeah. So it does correlate if they think about how they buy something. I mean, obviously not that we're buying.
Well, I've joked before about how online dating is like shopping. I mean, it really is in a way. I mean, there is a human on the other side of a dating profile, so it's a little bit different. But
yeah, right.
I mean, but essentially, I mean, you have pages and pages and pages of people there that could be somebody that you connect with and ultimately, develop a long-term relationship with. But the way you go about it is I mean, it just is.
and you don't have reviews, to look at, which is what I do. I'm like scrolling right down to the reviews, being like, okay, I don't have that necessarily on an online dating profile. So again,
so that first impression is like, that's your go-to.
Yeah, that is key. Put yourself out there honestly and authentic. And you'll get the people that, you're looking for. But yeah, it is, and just like you say, even more so, there's a person on the other side of the profile. Mm-hmm. So it's not just, I'm going to buy this product, and if I don't like it, I'll return it,
Right.
There are going to be, feelings and thoughts associated with every communication that you have with that person. So, and again, understanding where those values are, where how your voice should be, I mean, you have, and that, in that respect, as far as a profile, it's more about like, okay, are you a funny kind of person? Are you a jokester? Then it's perfectly appropriate to have, funny stuff or things that, relate into your profile, or if you're a super serious person, that should come off too, because you don't want to pretend you don't want to pretend pretend to be somebody you're not. So all of it is, there is so much correlation. And I think when people start to think about how they do shop or how they do look at buying certain services or meeting up with certain people, there are ways that you can simplify it and break it down into these 3 aspects. And if you continually think about your values, your voice, your visual, I think then you can be a little bit more consistent, which hopefully then means that you're not putting something out there that people are looking at and being like, wait a minute, I'm confused because he said this and then he does this and he looks like this. And, nobody wants that. And nobody has time for that, right?
And that's like, I'm on this mission, man, to make online dating better. Because it's such an amazing platform. And I think single people these days are so lucky to have that available to them. But nobody wants to, not nobody, a lot of people don't put it's like, it's just so funny because, they value, like I think we were saying earlier, love, relationships is like one of the top 3 to 5 things people want out of life, but then they don't put the effort into their profile to get that. And it's weird. There's a gap there that I think is strange.
Well, and you know what? It is strange. And what, again, it's funny because it correlates directly into how people want to put their services and their products out there too, because it's the same thing. They don't quite understand what it means to create a brand. Mm-hmm. and they don't they don't take the time to do it. They get a design from 99 Designs or something. They think that that's going to be evergreen for them, and it just isn't. And it's the same thing. It's all about what's that saying, nothing worth doing happens fast, or something like that, or
right, yeah.
And it's the same thing with personal branding and online dating. You have to put the time and effort into it. It is a project. It is something that you should put time and value into, because of the ultimate result of what you're going to
Right.
get out of it. I mean,
Right.
it's far more valuable than any product or service you would ever buy.
Yeah.
So
Oh
put the
yeah.
time into it.
Yeah. And I always, so I tell people when, choosing, pictures, it's common these days also to, get professional photos taken, which I'm totally a fan of. But I also think, and well, and on that note, I think that I'm a fan of that because it shows that investment into
Mm-hmm.
like, getting your photo taken and putting that on there. So
Right.
I think that shows investment. That's the in between the lines I see with professional photos.
Yeah.
And, so the two main things that I think people need to get out of should go for when they're choosing profiles for their choosing pictures for their profile
Yeah.
is showing that representation of what they look like and the representation of what it would look like to hang out with you.
Right.
Who
Oh,
are
good
you
one. Yeah.
in a social setting?
Right.
Who are you when you're out being active and doing something?
Mm-hmm.
So those are big things to me. And I like
That's
to
a good point.
yeah.
Yeah. That is a good point because I'm starting to think back to like some of the things like, like testimonials and stuff that my clients put on their websites and things like that. Like when you look at that in a branding setting, you want to see, someone, if they're offering a professional service, you want to see a professional picture. But if they're offering some fun outdoorsy backpack, you want to see them using that,
Right.
being out in the outdoors. So
Yeah.
that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Actually. Because if I'm someone who's super outdoorsy or super, nature driven, that's what I want to see from somebody I'm looking for to connect with,
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. That's a great idea.
You want people to be able to visualize themselves hanging out with you, being in your company. So
Yeah.
like when I'm online dating and I'm looking through men's profiles, I'm like, I can see myself hanging out with this guy because he looks like he's got cool friends. He looks like he's got a cool family. Or he likes to go hiking and I love to go hiking. He likes to ski. He likes to, whatever, hang out in bars, whatever it is. Like,
although the bar picture may not be the best for the very first profile picture. I guess it depends on how good the lighting is.
And like, I'm a very social person. I like to see, when I look at guys' profiles, I like to see that they're out with their friends. I like to see, there's so many profiles. It's like the thing on the computer. They just hit the button.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And I'm like, okay, well, I know what you look like, but I don't know what it looks like to hang out with you. You
right.
know?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it all. Like, I think, branding is not just what you see, but also what you feel, which is the values.
Right.
And, that in between the lines, the impression that you get and the judgment that you make about a person or about something that you're buying.
Right. And with personal branding, I think it's probably a little bit harder because you really don't, yes, with product and services as we buy them and we search and stuff like that, we're